Everyone, today I'm going to be filming part 2 of the video Cultivating Self-Compassion, Self-Acceptance and a Positive Outlook when you have a neuro condition. Now, the last video was kind of a ramble, but this one I've structured it a little bit more, so I'm just going to be reading some bullet points and explaining them. So I think the first thing I want to say in terms of developing self-compassion is know that you don't have to feel guilty for being unable to do something or for doing what's best for you and your well-being, because sometimes when we have a condition we struggle to do things that we believe we should be able to do, and you know, it can be really hurtful when we keep trying and our condition genuinely makes it difficult to do things. So I think it's important not to feel guilty for that and just understand that why that happens, and that our brains work differently, and that's completely okay. You know, don't let your condition stop you from doing things you want to do, but if there is something that is genuinely impacted by it, don't be angry at yourself for that, because that is not your fault that you struggle to do something, and you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. And also know that there's no need to feel guilty for doing what's best for your well-being, and even if you do, don't let it stop you from doing what's best for your well-being, because your well-being is so important and it's vital to look after your health, because then you have more energy and ability to go out and do the other things you want to do, and you have to recuperate sometimes as well, and that's really important, because for someone with Tourette's, you know, ticking all the time can be exhausting. For an autistic person, autism is exhausting because there's high levels of anxiety and sensory overload, so it's important to rest when you need it and do what's best for your well-being. Number 2, be able to set boundaries and be in solitude when you need it. And that's easier said than done, because for some people they feel very guilty when they set boundaries. They want to be there for everyone. They feel like it's their responsibility to help people. And yeah, we are here to help people, but you also need to help yourself. And when you help people to such an extent that it kind of grinds down on your own well-being, that can become an issue. So I think it's important to be able to look after yourself as well by saying to people in a kind way, I need to take time for myself right now, or even saying, I'm not able to talk right now, I need to rest, I need to be on my own for a while. Not like withdrawing, but if, for example, as an autistic person, sometimes talking all the time can be very overwhelming, being around people. So sometimes we just need our own time, and that's okay. It's completely okay to set boundaries, and you know, it really helps, because when you don't set boundaries, you end up feeling quite angry because you're overwhelmed. So it's important to be able to do that and be in solitude and rest whenever you need to. Number 3, try not to berate yourself for things you can't control. For example, your symptoms. For example, with a rage attack, you don't want to be angry at yourself for having one, because it's uncontrollable. And I think it's important as well to forgive yourself when something like that happens, a rage attack, or maybe you have disinhibition, you do something without being able to contemplate the consequences. I think it's important to forgive yourself when these things happen, and just know that your brain does work a little bit differently, and sometimes you have a hard time and things don't go as expected, or you have a symptom that maybe causes some issues, but it's okay, because you're trying your best, and you can forgive yourself, because you know, you're trying your best. And I think as well as this, sometimes you try again and again and again to stop something. Sometimes, for example, maladaptive daydreaming is something I experience. If you're daydreaming and every time you judge yourself and get angry at yourself for it, you're more likely to actually feel worse about yourself, and you're more likely to have lower self-esteem, therefore it happens more. So it's important not to judge yourself for these sorts of things. And also forgive yourself, no matter how many times it happens. Like, you know, take responsibility, but know that being angry at yourself isn't going to help anything. Next one is write a compassionate letter to yourself. I've done this quite a lot, especially in my big PANDAS flare. You write a letter to yourself from an outside perspective. So, for example, you say, dear, your name, and then write to your own mind. I did this a lot in the form of automatic writing, but you just write a letter to yourself in a compassionate way, and it's likely to get you further than what's actually going on in your mind, because it's like you're giving advice to yourself and you learn from your own writing in a way. So that can be very helpful. So basically treating yourself as if a friend would treat you, that's basically what it is, and getting that perspective that will actually help you go past the struggle and move forward. The next one is, congratulate yourself on your growth. I think that's a really big thing because, we're always growing, we're always evolving, we're always learning new things. We are not the same person we were a few years ago or even a few weeks ago. And I think it's actually really important to honour your progress, honour your growth, and be proud of yourself for that. If you have found ways to cope and manage with things, congratulate yourself on that. If you have learned to ask for help or learned to advocate for yourself, congratulate yourself for that, because you're growing as a person, and that is amazing because we're here to grow, and that's a beautiful thing if you just honour that. The next thing is surround yourself with people who understand. When you feel misunderstood, it can hurt, and I think I spoke about this in other videos. It can hurt to be misunderstood, but first of all, know that if you're misunderstood, you're different, and that's okay to be different, but also just surrounding yourself with people who are understanding can make a huge difference, because when people don't judge you, you're less likely to judge yourself, and when people are compassionate to you and understand what you can't control and understand what things are difficult for you, then again, it's more likely to help you have a better inner voice without the inner critic criticising you for things that are actually part of a condition. The next one is know that there's no way that you have to be. Some people might think that they have to change themselves to be a certain way in order to be worthy, or in order to, be typical, but nobody's typical, nobody's normal, and I think that actually embracing your individuality and uniqueness is really good, because you're likely to have more confidence and know that you don't actually want to fit in. Sometimes it's good to have differences, because you can use your experiences, be creative with it, teach others about it, teach others how to get out of the box and, be themselves. You're kind of teaching people that by being yourself. The next one is have a compassion journal. That means if there's something you're judging yourself for, something you, don't like within yourself, you write about that, see why you may be judging it within yourself, and then write to it. For example, if you're judging yourself for being hyperactive and you think you should be calm and still, write yourself in a loving way saying, I know you can't help it, this is the hyperactivity, anyone who's going through this would struggle, and stuff like that. And know that it's not an excuse but an explanation, because these things, we need to understand ourselves, and I think that when we understand ourselves and accept ourselves, we're likely to go further, as we're less likely to feel badly about ourselves, and sometimes it's the feeling bad about ourselves that holds us back. The next one is know that things can be hard and it's okay to struggle. You don't have to judge yourself for struggling more than others, and sometimes the more you struggle, the stronger you get, because you're again learning from your experiences. Sometimes we may say to ourselves, we should be able to do hard things. Why are we struggling? Why do we feel like this? But I think it's important to know that the fact that you're getting through this is amazing, and you are very resilient, and struggling doesn't mean you're weak at all. And also know that if you have a condition, it's not your fault, and you didn't actually do anything to make it come back or anything. If something's got worse, for example, in a PANDAS flare, you're like, well, how did this happen? How did this happen? Know that it's not your fault if your condition gets worse or anything like that. You're always doing the best you can. And also know that if you have a mental illness, it's not your fault. Recovery takes time. Don't be so angry at yourself for certain things and all that. Just go. There's this saying that recovery isn't linear, because technically you do go forwards, but there are always issues, and that's okay, that's natural. We're all human. And also, don't judge how you feel, because when you're accepting of how you feel, when you accept how you feel, it actually takes away a lot of the suffering. For example, if somebody is feeling very down, they might be angry at themselves for that, thinking, I should be grateful. Why am I not grateful? You know, other people have all this stuff in their life that, for example, somebody may be feeling down and they may judge themselves saying, well, I should be grateful. You know, I've got more than most people have. Why am I not grateful? And unfortunately, that's made worse by people sometimes not understanding mental health conditions, and people might say, well, you just need to cheer up. There's no reason to feel this way and stuff like that. But it's just that your brain is ill. It's a mental illness. You know, sometimes your brain's inflamed, that it's physiological, it's not a choice. And I think that it's important to accept this within yourself, because when you stop beating yourself up for how you feel and just accept it as a sensation that's within you, it's a lot easier, because you're not feeling like a bad person for this. And again, with anxiety as well, sometimes we say to ourselves we shouldn't be afraid, that the fear is terrible, and you know, that makes us avoid our own fear. But when we don't need to feel guilty for feeling afraid. If you have OCD or anxiety, it's not your fault. And you know, with PANDAS and PANS, it's always uncontrollable. People wouldn't do this to themselves. And know that it's okay to feel that way. You're not weak at all. You know, you are just doing the best you can. You're strong for being able to get through this. And know that it's okay to have flaws and be imperfect, because we're all human and nobody is perfect. That would be boring. But you know, sometimes our perceived flaws can allow us to, again, be more compassionate to others, have more creativity, have more empathy and understanding and stuff like that.